The second largest US bank to ever collapse just happened today. I'm here to talk about it because this is massively worrying, and it's such an incestuous bunch of banks that are lending back and forth that massive contagion can actually happen. And this is what's happening today. Let's jump straight into the article of the day, you guys. Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, marking the second biggest bank failure in US history. The bank, which is the 16th largest in the US, failed after depositors hurried to withdraw their money. This is a big portion that you should know about. Is bank runs are very, very possible. And bank runs is what happens to wipe entire banks out, could be entire sectors and massive amounts of companies. Now, let's take a moment and just remember that the Silicon Valley is down the United States, massive. It's focused in that one area, all tech startups, huge valuations, people with massive salaries. They're all putting their money in that bank. Remember, when they put all that money in the bank, that their insured amounts are only 250,000. So anything above that, they can completely lose all of their money if there's a run on the bank. We're going to talk about a run on the bank a bit later. Remember in 2020 when the lockdowns were happening, and for that entire 2020 year, I remember lining up my mom. We couldn't even get $50 out of the bank. They completely shut off all the money that you could get your hands on. At that time, if they would have allowed more, we could have run into massive contagion where the entire bank could collapse. So if we continue on this right now, there was that big run on the bank failed. The US bank failed after depositors hurried to withdraw money this week amid anxiety about the bank's health. Remember, it was all based on tech, and tech has been hemorrhaging this year. It was the second biggest bank failure in US history after the collapse of Washington Mutual in 2008. This sentence is important. Extinction level event for startups. This is one thing. Let's go forward. Look at Roku, for example. We all know Roku was among the biggest casualties of the bank collapse. It had regulatory filing on Friday saying 26% of its cash, or $500 million, was deposited in the bank. And guess what? Evaporated. They also have a lot of other companies that are there as well with them, all tech companies. Here is the other part that I'd like to look at. It says little chance of the chaos spreading. Little chance. Don't worry. Everything is fine. The biggest banks, the most likely cause of the economic meltdown, have a healthy balance sheet and plenty of capital. All right, so let's jump over to the banks are fine. Canadian banks erase $20 billion in value. Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal, TD Bank. This is in Canada, a million miles away from Silicon Valley, right? The fallout from Silicon Valley's banking collapse. This is why I say it's incestuous, because they all lend back and forth to each other. This is the biggest bank failure in a decade. But they want to tell us that don't worry, you guys. Everything is cool. There's nothing to see here. This is how it always happened. We've seen this story before. We've seen this movie before, right? That all these banks, when one goes down, it's like a series of dominoes. Boom, 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 boom. And they all can hit them over. $20 billion in another country is lost here. And they lost hundreds of billions of dollars. So we should be paying attention to this. Can you imagine that they were releasing cops and sending cops over to the individual banks just to stand guard at the door to say no one's allowed in? This all happened just in the past couple of days. Within 48 hours, they thought, man alive, our balance sheet, our book here is so heavy on tech, and tech is losing so much money. We need cash to stay open. We're in trouble. So they just tried to be quiet about it. And they just released saying, we need some more stock. We have to sell more stocks to get. And everybody saw right through it and knew their problem. And as soon as they saw them do that, there was a run on the bank when all the companies were running to try to get their cash out of the bank. Now, if I put my $1 million in the bank, shouldn't they have it if I went to go get it? That's the hard part. No, they don't. They don't have to have your money. As soon as you give the money to the bank, it's no longer yours. And this is why fractional reserve banking. Just imagine this $100 that you work for and you put in the bank. They only have to keep 10% of that in a savings, 10 bucks. But then they've loaned out $90, but that $90 is a credit to them. So now they can only keep $9 of the $90 that they lent out, and now they can lend out $81. And that cycle just proceeds and proceeds and keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So in a very small window, If I deposit $1 million into the bank, if they do that back and forth, fractional reserve banking, they can now lend out 9 million against the 1 million that I put in the bank. So if now they have $9 million on their books for that 1 million, all 9 million people can't go and ask, all $9 million can't come and try to take it out at once. It will collapse the bank. And so this is why banks are always very sly, right? They'll take your money as fast as you can give it to them. But when you want to cash it out, well, can we make an appointment? May take a couple weeks. Why don't we make an order for that? May take a month for you to move big sums of money because they cannot risk collapsing the banks. And people hate that you can't get your money. And it's because it's trapped in this system. And so this run on the bank took out not just that one bank, but think of the hundreds of billions of dollars that it's going to go and lose everywhere else. In addition to that, if we take a look at this sheet, I saw somewhere on here these other companies that it was investing in, but I didn't highlight it. There was a lot of other tech companies that were on this list here: Airbnb, DoorDash, Dropbox. These companies that had stacked their money in this bank, as it goes down, they lose all their cash. It's gonzo. So what did people say about it? Well, Ackman, he is a very, very famous hedge fund manager. He saw that the bank was plunging in pre-market. And what did he advise? We need a government bailout. Oh my goodness, unbelievable. And so remember, you guys, that the laws have been changing in North America to prevent bailouts anymore. So they don't want the taxpayer to pay for it. They want depositors to pay for it. Here is the difference. What if the bank has no money left in it? Okay, everyone's already ran and sucked all the juice out of that orange. There's nothing left. So they had nothing to seize in order to stay open. So the Bank of Canada and all Canadian banks here have the right for bail-ins. So if the banks get in trouble, they go into your bank account and just seize 10% of what you have. And now they call it theirs. So no matter what, the taxpayer or the person who has money in there, it's both your problem. So this contagion is going to continue. You're going to be hearing stories about this for weeks and months, okay, of the losses. We haven't even seen them all yet. But like I showed you, just the Canadian banks in another country, a million miles away, is lost $20 billion. Imagine all these other banks. Unbelievable. So what can you do about it? Depending on your jurisdiction, it doesn't matter on the country that you're in. They're either FDIC insurance on the states or whatever it is. You have insured amounts by the government. Never have all your money in one bank. You need to split it up between multiple banks, maybe co-op banks, maybe small local banks. Maybe you're going to have some in a really huge bank as well. You have to divide that up in case there's bail-ins, in case the banks collapse. Don't have it all in there and have some money outside of the system. That's why I always am telling people, have a little bit of silver, have a little bit of gold outside of the system. You can buy these and have them stored overseas in vaults, put them in your safety deposit boxes, whatever you got to do. The cool thing about like just this 1 ounce of silver is 100 years ago, it bought a 30 loaves of bread, 50 years ago, 30 loaves of bread, today, 30 loaves of bread. This holds its purchasing power. It doesn't lose like those useless dollars. There is no inflation when it comes to this. This neutralizes inflation. If you own this, there is no inflation anymore. And that's why I think everybody should have some of this. How much? It really depends what financial advisors you're talking to. I'm not one. I'm a real estate broker. They generally advise you to have 5 to 20%. So like whatever you're going to feel that's comfortable, somewhere in the middle there, to have some, just as your anchor, as your temple of solitude, just to make sure that you're safe and you'll always have some money lying around. This is like international currency. It's good in any country you go to. Anyway, you guys, this is going to continue happening. This is not the first, and it definitely will not be the last. We're at the beginning. They haven't even admitted that there's a recession yet. You know me, I've been telling you for a year, massive, massive, massive recession is already here. Guys, we're going to see a lot more fireworks before this gets any better. Inflation is going to be very, very high for a long time. So stay safe out there. Good news. Some of the best deals of your life is coming. I can't wait. I'm going to buy more houses than I've ever bought in my entire life. Have a great day, everybody. Wish you the best.